The sirens cut through the night, but inside my cruiser, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Dispatch had called in a 211 at the Chevron off Sprague Avenue, armed robbery, suspect fleeing on foot. I'd been a cop for 16 years, long enough to know when a call had that certain weight to it. Tonight felt heavier than usual. Maybe it was the way the voice on the radio cracked when they said the clerk was bleeding. Maybe it was just December air seeping through my bones. I swung the cruiser down East 5th, lights painting the storefronts in red and blue. My gut told me the suspect would cut through the alley behind the pawn shop. It wasn't instinct anymore, it was muscle memory, years of chasing desperate men through Spokane's side streets. I killed the sirens, let the engine idle low, and slid out of the driver's seat with my flashlight drawn. The alley stank of spilled beer and old grease, shadows swallowing everything between the dumpsters. Then I heard it, footsteps, frantic, crunching gravel. My light caught him for a split second, dark hoodie, mask pulled low, a glint of steel clutched in his right hand. He saw me too. For that instant, the world narrowed to two choices, run or fight. He ran. Police. Stop. My voice bounced off the brick walls. He didn't. I gave chase, boots pounding against the frozen ground, breath puffing white in the cold. The suspect darted left, nearly slipped, recovered, and surged toward the chain-link fence at the end of the alley. He wasn't going to make it. Not with the adrenaline in my legs and the training that still kicked in like clockwork. I hit him low, shoulder into his ribs, and we crashed to the ground. The gun skittered across the pavement, metal shrieking against asphalt. He fought hard, too hard for a simple grab-and-dash. His fists were practiced, movements sharp, controlled, not the wild thrashing of some junkie. I managed to pin his arms, wrestled the cuffs onto his wrists, and rolled him onto his side. My lungs burned, but the familiar surge of relief flooded in. Another armed suspect down, another potential tragedy prevented. "You picked the wrong night," I said between breaths, yanking him to his feet. He didn't answer, just glared at me through the mask. I shoved him against the wall, pulled the cloth down from his face, and froze. He wasn't some half-strung addict. His face was clean-shaven, eyes sharp, calculating. He looked professional. Too professional. And when he finally spoke, his voice was calm, steady, the kind of voice that doesn't belong to a corner store stick-up. "Officer," he said, "reach into my jacket pocket. Left side." I didn't move at first. Training screamed against it. But something in his tone wasn't pleading. It was commanding. Against my better judgment, I reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet. Inside, neatly displayed, was a badge. A police badge. For a second, my entire body went cold. The alley disappeared, the world shrank to the piece of metal in my hand. Not just any badge, either, Spokane Police Department, same division, same shield design. I looked back at him, and he smiled like a man who knew a secret that could ruin me. "Now," he said softly, "we're going to have a conversation." I stared at him, my grip tightening on the cuffs, my mind racing. Dispatch had called in a robbery, I'd tackled a suspect, and now I was holding proof, impossible proof, that I'd just cuffed one of my own. And as the weight of that badge pressed into my palm, I realized something far worse. I knew the name on it. Marcus Hale. The letters on the shield might as well have been carved into my palm. I'd stared at them 100 times in the squad room, commendations in glass, a photo from a hostage rescue 5 years back. The golden boy of major crimes. The cop you point to when rookies ask what the job looks like at its best. "Easy," he said, turning his head just enough that the cuff chain clicked against brick. "That's mine." I slid the badge back into his pocket. Not because he told me to, because I didn't want it burning a hole in my hand. My brain kept trying to snap the pieces together. Robbery call. Mess. Gun. Cash. And a name we all knew like a prayer. "Dispatch, Unit 3 Adam 7, I said into my shoulder mic, eyes never leaving him. "One in custody behind East 5th and Maple. Need a supervisor to my location. And start me a serial check on badge number." I rattled it off from memory. Old habits. Verify everything. Trust nothing. Hale's mouth twitched. Not a smile. Not quite. You don't want to do that on open air. "Shut up." A beat of silence hummed under the night. Somewhere blocks away, the siren wailed, Dopplered, and faded. My flashlight lay where it had fallen, its beam knifing across the alley and catching a torn plastic bag flapping against a dumpster like a warning flag. 3 Adam 7, copy your traffic. Dispatch came back, clipped and bright. Supervisor en route. What's the nature of the 10 to 12? Badge conflict. I swallowed the taste of metal. And notify the watch commander. Copy. Hale shifted against the wall. Calm. Too calm. Officer. You're not calling me officer, I said. You're a suspect. He exhaled through his nose, the patience of a teacher with a slow student. There's an operation. It's live. You just stepped into it. Funny, I didn't hear a thing about an op. We compartmentalized. Need to know. Call Lieutenant Whitaker on the TAC channel. Tell him you have Echo Blue. Echo Blue. The words slid over me like a cold shower. I'd heard them once years ago, in a briefing about undercover extractions. A last-ditch safety phrase for when a UC gets burned and protocol goes out the window. Not something you use lightly. Not something you forget. I keyed my mic again, thumb hovering over the toggle for TAC. My finger didn't move. If there's an op, why is the clerk bleeding? Stage went sideways. He cut his hand on the register. He's not shot. You expect me to take your word. I expect you to stop broadcasting our business to every wannabe with a scanner, he said quietly. You keep this on open air, you put people in coffins. The way he said people, plural, ticked something ugly in my chest. I backed a step, bent, and towed his discarded pistol away. A Glock. Clean. The kind every cop in this city knew by weight. The mag was still seated. Chamber. I racked it a hair. One round popped and skittered, ringing against a bottle. Loaded. Not a prop. The cash lay where it had flown from his hoodie, rubber-banded stacks with a bank strap. My light caught the ink stamp. First Inland Credit. No one stages a stamp unless they want to be believed. I switched to TAC. 3 Adam 7 to command. Static hissed, then a voice like gravel. Go ahead, 3 Adam 7. 10:15 with a 211 suspect who presented as Echo Blue. Name given by credential, Detective Marcus Hale. Requesting verification and instructions. 2 heartbeats. 3. Stand by. Hale watched me with those steady eyes. I'd seen that look in debriefs. The look of a man doing math faster than you can. I thought of the clerk again. I thought of the way Hale's fists had moved, short, efficient bursts, elbows tight, like a boxer who learned in a gym and finished on the job. The radio cracked. 3 Adam 7, switched to Command 2. Negative, I said. Confirm identity first. A longer pause now, the kind that tells you your name just got dragged across a conference table. 3 Adam 7, this is Command. You are to maintain custody and clear the air. Lieutenant Whitaker is inbound. Do not, repeat do not, discuss Echo Blue on this channel. Copy. My tongue felt thick. Hale's shoulders dropped a fraction, as if a tight band under his ribs had loosened. Thank you. That wasn't for you, I said, but my voice didn't have teeth. Brown snowmelt trickled along the alley lip, catching flashing light from a distant intersection. My breath fogged and drifted. December gnawed at my ears. I was aware of everything, the weight of my vest, the grit grinding under my knee when I'd hit him, the ache chewing at my right shoulder where he'd caught me with a twist. The little details that stick with you when your world tilts. You were my training officer's poster boy, I said, because the silence felt like it might crack me. They told us to watch your interviews. Learn how to talk to people like they weren't suspects. Learn how not to make mistakes. Then don't make one now. Like robbing a gas station. He lifted his cuffed hands an inch, chain tightening against brick. You're thinking in labels, not in outcomes. Spare me the TED Talk. A cruiser turned onto Maple, tires hissing, headlights sweeping the mouth of the alley before disappearing. We were tucked in just enough to be invisible from the street. I liked it better when things were visible. Monsters hate light. So do lies. Let's pretend for a second you're not dirty, I said. Why me? Why is it my alley? Why am I the one who tackles the department's favorite son wearing a ski mask and carrying a live gun? He looked past me, not at the light but into memory. Because you're clean, he said. Because you don't owe anybody anything. Because you've got 16 years on and haven't tried to buy your stripes with favors. Don't romanticize me. I don't have time to, he said. You picked up the tale because you're predictable in the way good cops are predictable. And because whoever's listening right now needed to decide if you're a problem or a solution. My neck prickled. Whoever's listening. I shifted my stance so the wall covered more of my back. I'm not your anything. You're the only thing standing between a salvage and a funeral procession. He angled his head, voice dropping. Do you know where the clerk's blood ended up? You told me it was a cut hand. Do you know where it ended up? I didn't answer. On your boots, he said. You stepped in it when you came through the back door. You radioed the world and then came hunting. That clerk's fine, by the way. Medics are there. Your buddies have him wrapped and whining about stitches. But from where I'm standing, I've got a veteran patrolman who thinks with his feet and his heart. I can work with that. Stop talking like we're on the same side. Stop pretending we're not. I heard them before I saw them, 2 sets of footsteps at the alley mouth, deliberate, not rushed. The kind that announce authority without shouting. Whitaker's silhouette filled the gap first, broad, winter coat open, tie crooked. Another figure hung a step behind him, hands tucked, face vague in the dark. Holster, Whitaker said without preamble. My weapon stays out until I get answers, I replied, leveling my muzzle at the pavement. He stepped closer. His breath steamed. His eyes were flat coins. You have my word you'll get them. My radio squawked at my shoulder, sudden as a slap. 3 Adam 7, be advised, additional units diverted, priority down the block. You're holding alone for now. Of course I was. Whitaker's gaze flicked to Hale, to the gun at the far edge of my light, to the money. He made a small, disappointed sound like a father at a report card. Detective. Sir, Hale said. What the hell did you do? Kept a timeline, Hale said. Barely. Whitaker rubbed his jaw. You've tied my hands, son. Better yours than mine, Hale said. That other figure behind Whitaker shifted, and the alley's geometry changed. She stepped into my light, a woman in a slate coat, hair pulled back tight, eyes like a lit apartment in an empty building. The badge on her belt didn't flash SPD silver. State. Attorney General's Office. Organized crime. Officer, she said, calm as a receipt printing. My name is Claire Nix. You're going to hate this part. What part is that? The part where you learn the robbery wasn't a robbery, she said. It was a cover. And the thing you grabbed onto in the dark isn't the worst thing we're chasing. I felt my grip loosen on the pistol without my permission. It wasn't relief. It was the sensation of a floor moving an inch lower under your feet. Say it plain, I said. She glanced at Whitaker, then at Hale, then back to me. We're not fishing small time tonight. We're cutting into a network that pays certain men to wear 2 faces. Cops. Security. Couriers. Your call came in because we pushed it. We wanted the right person to hear it. I thought of dispatch's voice cracking. I thought of the clerk's blood, my boot sole squeaking on time. And I was the right person, I said. You were the honest one, she said. And honest gets tested. Hale tilted his head. So what's it going to be, officer? You going to help us end this clean? Or you going to make them activate Plan B? Plan B? I asked, before I could stop myself. Nix smiled without warmth. The plan where we let the rot keep breathing a little longer. Where someone else bleeds out on a floor a week from now so we can keep pretending we didn't see what we saw. A wind chased a paper cup across the mouth of the alley. It clattered, spun, settled. Somewhere, far away, a radio barked and laughed and went quiet. I holstered. Not because they told me to. Because the night had picked its side, and my hands were tired of shaking. Whitaker didn't come any closer than he had to. He looked at my body cam, then at my shoulder mic, and spoke loud enough for both to catch it. Officer, per policy, Activate temporary mute for undercover identity protection. I'm authorizing. Timestamp 22:31. I tapped the button. The camera chimed once. Mute. 30 seconds. It would log the mute and who ordered it. If I ever asked, I had my cover. 30 seconds, I said. Nix didn't waste a syllable. You're going to log the gun and the cash as recovered. Photograph both, bag the pistol. The money stays here in the alley, exactly where it fell. She tipped her chin at the rubber-banded stacks. There's a tracker in the strap. We need the pickup to happen. Tracker? I asked. AG property, she said. Loaned to SPD Major Crimes this afternoon under a memorandum Whitaker signed. It's real tender with real serials. Your photos make the chain clean. My camera chimed again. Mute off. Whitaker folded it back into official. 3 Adam 7, per direction. You will recover firearm at scene and hold suspect for transfer to Major Crimes. Supervisor on site. I repeated it for the record, then crouched to work. The Glock felt familiar and wrong at the same time. No scratches. Oil still sweet. I locked the slide back, called out the condition, cleared it into the evidence bag, and labeled it with the date, time, and my badge number. The cash looked like a fat promise. I put a ruler next to it, snapped shots with a department phone, close, clean, no hero angles, then stepped back. Hale hadn't moved. The only tells were the shallow muscles along his jaw working like he was chewing up a clock. When he met my eyes, there was something there I'd seen on late nights sitting with dying men, clarity. The acceptance that whatever's next is bigger than you. Echo Blue was your extraction phrase, I said, quieter now. It really should have been yours, he said. My radio crackled. 3 Adam 7, Watch Commander direct. Bring your detainee straight to the South Sallyport. Do not stage at holding. Do not pass through the main. Use Bay 4. Whitaker didn't look surprised. Nix didn't look anything at all. Copy, I said, but I felt my tongue go dry. Bay 4 wasn't in my usual vocabulary. Bay 4 was the one with the camera that had issues last month, the one the union rep joked about when someone needed a discreet chew-out. Nix stepped closer, her voice so even it was almost soothing. You're going to do exactly that, officer. You're going to drive to Bay 4. You're going to announce the arrival. And you're going to wait, engine idling, doors locked. When I knock twice and then once, you open. If anyone else tells you otherwise, you force them to identify themselves on camera. You keep Hale alive until I touch his shoulder. If the wrong person opens that door, you put the car in reverse and you leave. No cowboy. No speeches. And if the wrong person opens the door and shoots through my windshield? I asked. Her eyes held mine. Then I'm the one who has to tell the governor why we lost our shot because we didn't trust a cop with a clean record. Hale cleared his throat. He knows the clerk, he said to Nix. Tell him. She nodded once. The clerk is a CI. He cut his hand on purpose when he smashed the register. He wanted the blood on the floor and the call on the air. Our guys are with him now. He'll get a fruit basket and hazard pay. No one died tonight. Don't be the first. Whitaker touched my sleeve, an old man gesture disguised as a supervisor's reminder. This will look wrong on paper, he said. It'll look like a mess. Let it. You could have looped me in, I said. I wasn't accusing him. I was accusing the job. Compartmentalization keeps bodies warm, he said. You know that. I put Hale on his feet and steered him toward the cruiser. He didn't resist. He moved like a man walking himself out to his own execution, steady and precise. I popped the back door, angled his head under the frame, clicked the seatbelt. My hands remembered the motions by themselves. The cage light threw a sickly glow across his face. In that hard plastic world, he looked less like a legend and more like a man caught between two traps. Window up, he said. No gaps. They like to toss things. Who's they? I asked. He smiled without teeth. You'll see them in your mirror. I shut the door, squared away the evidence bag in the trunk, left the cash where it lay as if it had grown roots in the grime. When I slid back into the driver's seat, My hands hovered over the wheel for a second longer than usual. The leather felt unfamiliar. "Dispatch, 3 Adam 7, I said. En route to South Sallyport, Bay 4. 1:10:15. Supervisor aware. Copy, 3 Adam 7. I rolled slow past the mouth of the alley. Nix and Whitaker were already ghosts, no silhouettes, no breath trails. If not for the bagged Glock in my trunk, I could have convinced myself I'd invented them to make the night make sense. Sprague at this hour is a kaleidoscope of neon and regret. I took Maple, hung a right, and kept it at 30. The rear view showed nothing but darkness and the tired stutter of my light bar reflection. For 4 blocks it stayed that way. On the 5th, a pair of headlights edged into view and kept their distance just outside the bubble where a citation starts. On the 6th, a second pair joined, 1 lane over, performing that casual dance where no one passes because no one wants to be noticed being first. "You see them?" Hale asked from the back. "I see traffic," I said. "They're not traffic," he said. "They're watchers. One'll be a gray Tahoe with an aftermarket roof rack that can't carry weight. The other'll be a mid-2000 Civic with a hood a shade off because it's from a salvage yard. The Civic will peel off at Division. The Tahoe will stay until you enter the ramp." I didn't answer. I watched. At Division, the Civic blinked into the left lane and drifted away like a bored minnow. The Tahoe stayed, keeping 3 car lengths, turn signal that never clicked on, a roof rack that was more ornament than tool. My phone buzzed in the console. Unknown number. I let it go. It buzzed again. The screen lit bright for a heartbeat, and in that slice of light I saw the preview, a single photograph, my front porch. Same cracked step. Same chipped paint I kept promising to fix when the weather warmed. My stomach slid. I silenced the phone. My knuckles stayed white on the wheel. "They already had your number," Hale said. "They've had it for months." "Who is they?" I asked again, not because I like repeating myself, but because the question wouldn't stop. "The people who'd rather the badge be a costume than a promise," he said. "The ones who learned how to turn policy into cover. They don't care which patch you wear so long as you keep your mouth shut and your invoices paid." We took the ramp. The Tahoe took it with us. At the top, where the road curved toward the south lot, I tapped my brakes once, a polite nothing to see here tap, and the Tahoe gave me space, as if I'd cleared some invisible handshake. "Bay 4, dispatch said in my ear, businesslike. Door opening. The gate arm lifted. The Sallyport's metal mouth yawned. The camera over Bay 4 winked its single red LED like a lazy eye. I nosed the cruiser in, let the bumper kiss the painted line. The Tahoe rolled past the entrance without slowing, a shark deciding it wasn't feeding time. I kept the engine idling. Doors locked. Just like Nick said. The concrete walls threw my exhaust back at me in faint burps. Somewhere in the station above, a copier whirred and died. I keyed the radio. 3 Adam 7 at Bay 4. 10:23. Silence for a beat. Then a different voice than dispatch, smooth and too careful. Copy. 3 Adam 7. Stand by. We'll meet you inside. Do not open the rear door. Identify, I said, every syllable placed like a brick. A half-second, then, watch Commander Doyle. He hadn't been on the air all night. Hale chuckled once in the cage, a sound like gravel sliding. There he is. Footsteps approached on the other side of the metal roll-up. Not hurried. 2 sets. No chatter. I flexed my fingers and told myself it was to keep the blood warm. A knock on my window. 2 quick, 1 slow. My pulse spiked so fast it made my vision flash. I looked toward the roll-up door. The footsteps paused. Then resumed, slower. The knock came again, 2 quick, 1 slow, exactly like Nix had promised, the sound precise as code. Open the door, officer. Doyle's voice flowed through the radio. Let me take our detective. I stared at the dash camera indicator. Solid green. Recording. I stared at the roll-up as a seam of light appeared at its bottom edge. A set of polished shoes spread in the glow. Next to them, a pair of boots, scuffed and wide-set, anchoring like patience itself. 2 quick, 1 slow. The boots didn't fidget. I thumbed the lock. I opened the driver's door an inch on the chain stop. Cold air knifed in, tasting like pennies. "Badge up to the glass," I said, voice steady because I wanted it to be. "Both of you." 2 badges rose into the slice of cold air like saints on stained glass. The first, slate leather wallet, hologram dancing, Red Attorney General, NEX, Claire. The second was SPD brass, the kind Whitaker wore, held steady in a gloved hand with the crease of a tie just visible above it. "2 quick, 1 slow," Nick said through the glass, calm enough to slow my pulse by a hair. "Blue holds." On the radio, Doyle's voice smoothed over the moment. "Open up, officer. We don't have all night." "Unit identify with your callback code," I said. "And the last 4 of the incident number." Dead air. Then, too fast, "That won't be necessary." It was exactly what a dirty answer sounds like. The boots outside didn't move. The polished shoes shifted half an inch, as if their owner had never considered being told no. I slid my phone under the dashcam on speaker and tapped a quick photo of the badges, letting the lens see what I saw. My hand found the release. I cracked the door. Nix didn't reach for it. She kept her badge up and her gaze level. "Audio mute," Whitaker said, loud enough for the mic, 30 seconds. "Authorized." I hit the button. The chime sounded in my chest. Nix dipped her chin the slightest bit. "Rear door." I touched his shoulder, and only then. I nodded once. "On your contact." The chime again, mute off. The radio tried a different angle. 3 Adam 7, this is Doyle. We have a medic waiting inside. Do not transfer to outside personnel. Identify with callback code, I repeated. Static. Then, we'll discuss your insubordination after. Copy, I said, and meant the opposite. Nix moved to the rear quarter panel, one hand up, fingers splayed where the camera could see them. She curled them into a fist twice, then once, the knock, translated for glass. Her other hand stayed open for the lens. I hit the rear lock. The door popped. Cold sank into the cage like water. She reached in, touched Hale's shoulder, just a 2-finger press, and he exhaled like a diver breaking surface. "On me," she said. "Ma'am," he answered, like he was back at inspection. Then the world tried to split. A flash where the Sallyport catwalk met the cinder block. Not light. Metal. A muzzle. The sound came a breath later, a hammer through a bell. The rear window starred into a shocked spiderweb right where Hale's head had been. I didn't think. I threw the cruiser into reverse and stomped, tires chirping on damp concrete. The bumper kissed the lower lip of the roll-up and shoved it back into its guides with a groan. The sight line from the catwalk vanished. Nix yanked Hale down by his belt and shoulder in the same movement, folding him against the wheel well. Whitaker slammed a flat red button at the wall I hadn't seen, and alarms howled awake like every dog in the city had just been kicked. The radio went from syrup to knives. Code red, Bay 4. Code red, Bay 4. Stay with me. Nix barked. He's not our corpse tonight. Something thunked against the hood. Another round, lower angle, people improvising on the fly. I feathered the gas to pivot the car across the bay and block the line from the catwalk with the bulk of the engine block. My mouth tasted like pennies. My brain had narrowed to geometry and the rubbery drag of my boots on the pedals. "Door!" Whitaker shouted. The roll-up shuddered, then shimmied down, stuttering through damage until it slammed on the concrete and juddered. The alarm cut to an angry bleat. "Shooter's internal," Nick said, low and even. You could have set a metronome by her heartbeat. "You see, this is why you came to Bay 4. I threw the transmission into park. Hands off. Breathe. Let the camera watch me do it by the book." 3 Adam 7. I forced out for the record. Shots fired at Bay 4. Suspect unknown. Upper catwalk. Detective Hale secured. No officer down. "We're moving," Nick said. "No suture to pick until we're off this table." "Where?" I asked. "Out," she said. "To where they can't write the report before the facts." She tucked her shoulder to the rear frame and peered through the frost lines in the cracked glass, reading angles the way I read a street. "On my touch," she said again, to me this time. "Engage child lock override." Let him out. You stay in the driver's seat until I say the word. I did it. My fingers had no tremor because fear had burned itself into bone-deep focus. The child lock clicked. The latch popped. Hale slid out on Nix's pull, low and tight, like a wrestler following a coach's voice. Whitaker kept his body between the catwalk and their path. He didn't have a vest on. He didn't care, or he'd made a decision about what mattered to him in a way I hadn't yet. Another slam from the radio, not Doyle this time. All units hold perimeter. Bay 4 locked down. Do not enter. It was a gift. Chaos outside kept more wolves from sniffing our blood trail. Nix hustled Hale to the side door under the stairwell. She pressed a thumb to a small black square I'd never noticed on that wall, a badge reader that had no right to be in a municipal building. The light flipped from red to green. The door unlatched with a sigh of a kept secret. She looked back at me. You bring the car around to South Lot B in 3 minutes. No lights. If you see the Tahoe again, you were never here. If someone with an SPD badge stops you between here and there, you ask them what color the door was in the old 3rd precinct. If they say anything but orange, you don't stop. Understand? Orange, I said. Say it. Orange. Her mouth twitched like she might have been capable of a smile in a life without catwalk shooters. Good. Hale lifted his cuffed hands. Keys. Not yet, she said, and pushed him through the door. Whitaker slipped in behind them and was gone. The latch whispered. The bay was mine again. Me, the cruiser, a webbed window, and the ringing of my own nerves. The roll-up rattled once, hard, as if someone on the far side was thinking about improvising a ram. I didn't wait to learn his final grade. I backed out the way I'd smashed in, ghosted along the concrete throat, and nosed into night. The city felt different. Not safer or more dangerous, just honest about what it was willing to do to keep its own story straight. South Lot B is the kind of place you don't notice until you need it. Cracked asphalt stitched with weeds, a line of dead maintenance carts, a floodlight that hums and forgets to illuminate. I killed my engine on the far side of a salt truck and waited. The Tahoe didn't show. The Civic was elsewhere, chewing someone else's attention. My phone buzzed again on the console. Another photo of my porch. This time with a paper tucked under the doormat, a corner flipped up by the wind. Some helpful stranger had scrawled knock on the back of a catalog and propped it against my door. What do they want? I said to no one. The answer felt like it was already sitting in my back seat. Leverage, not money. Habit, not orders. People like me who could be nudged into doing their work without ever hearing their names. 3 minutes. 4. 5. Then the passenger door opened without a sound and Nix slid in like a shadow growing legs. She smelled like cold and copier toner. Drive, she said. 2 blocks south, then right, then straight until you can't see City Hall in your mirror. No chatter. I went. The city unspooled under my tires. 2 blocks. Right. The skyline slid away until the clock tower was just a smear. Keys, she said at last, and I passed her the handcuff key from my vest. Where's Whitaker? With Hale, she said. Taking him to a box we built under a name that won't show up in any of your drop-down menus. And the shooter? Wounded Pride, she said. He'll live. For now. You know who it was. I know who signed him onto the catwalk, she said. And I know which printer their memo used. You'd be amazed what Toner tells you. We crossed into a neighborhood where porches were closer to the street and the Christmas lights were a little more stubborn about staying lit in late December. A couple walked a dog in matching sweaters. The city pretended to be simple again for a half block and then gave up. You held, she said finally. You didn't open for the voice with rank. You opened for the knock with proof. That saves people. I almost lost him in a garage built to keep him safe. Almost is the price of not lying to yourself about risk, she said. You'll pay that one again. Streetlights ticked by like seconds on an old wall clock. My hands had stopped shaking and started to ache. What now? I asked. Now you're going to write it up like it was boring, she said. You recovered a firearm. You moved a suspect. You were ordered to Bay 4, where there was a discharge you didn't initiate, and you followed direction. Your report will be accurate. It will not be helpful. And when Doyle asks for the body cam, he'll get it, she said. It'll show him exactly what he expects to see, a cop doing his job and refusing to die stupid. I turned another corner, and the Tahoe's silhouette ghosted in a shop window reflection before the street went dark again. Not behind us, beside us, somehow everywhere and nowhere. Nix watched the glass. They think fear is a leash, she said. They forget it's also a fuse. My phone buzzed a third time. No photo, just a text with 3 words, nice blue door. My front door wasn't blue. The cold that rolled through me then beat the alley, the catwalk, the sallyport combined. It wasn't about my house. It was about who they thought I was. Predictable, routine, a man who didn't change the small things because the big things already demanded so much. They were in your head before you heard the robbery, Hale had said. I drove on, past a church lot I sometimes used to think in, past a playground that would be white with frost by morning. Somewhere ahead, a door I hadn't seen before was about to open, and someone I hadn't met yet was going to decide if I was a problem or a solution. The farther we got from downtown, the quieter Spokane became. The bars thinned out, neon died, and the streets were just pools of sodium glow stitched by darkness. Nix sat with her hands folded on her lap like she was riding in a taxi, but her eyes never left the mirrors. She watched each headlight behind us as if she knew their drivers' names. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Safe house," she said. "Not mine. Not SPD's. A place that exists because the state pays the taxes on an address nobody remembers." "That's comforting." "It should be," she said. "If it weren't real, I wouldn't be here. And if it gets burned, we'll know how deep this thing goes." I turned onto a residential road, the kind with half the houses dark and the other half over-decorated for Christmas. One yard had 20 inflatables that leaned against each other like drunk relatives. Another had nothing but a single, perfect wreath in the center of the front window. The kind of block where no one looked too closely at who pulled into which driveway. "Kill the lights," Nix said. I did. The cruiser rolled the last 100 feet under nothing but moon. She pointed at a house near the end of the block. Single story, paint peeling, gutters hanging like loose stitches. It looked abandoned, the kind of place kids dared each other to break into. "Park 2 doors down," she said. I pulled up beside a pickup with a tarp over the bed. Nix stepped out first, checked the shadows, then gestured for me to follow. She moved like she'd memorized the block before I was born. We walked past a hedge, across a yard crunchy with frost, then slipped in through the side gate of the wrecked house. The back door had 3 locks. Nix keyed each, fast, precise, then shoved it open with her shoulder. The smell inside hit me first. Stale coffee, paper, and something chemical, maybe cleaning agent. Not the stink of rot, not the musk of squatters. It was lived in, but not by anyone who cared about comfort. The living room was stripped. No couch, no photos. Just a folding table with a laptop, a printer, and stacks of manila folders. Whitaker sat on a metal chair, tie loosened, sleeves rolled. Hale was there too, cuffs off now, rubbing his wrists and nursing a paper cup of water like it was whiskey. He looked at me. "You made it." I shut the door behind me. "Someone shot at you in a police garage." "Someone shot at us," Nix corrected. "Don't separate yourself from this." "Not anymore." I felt my jaw clench. I didn't sign up for this op. I didn't even know there was an op. "Congratulations," Whitaker said. His voice was tired, like it had carried too many secrets for too long. "Now you're in it." I looked at Hale. "Start talking. Why the ski mask? Why the staged robbery? Why did you look me in the eye and make me think I was cuffing a criminal?" Hale set the cup down. His hands were steady, but his eyes weren't. They kept flicking to the folders stacked on the table. "Because the people we're hunting don't believe in warrants. They believe in loyalty tests. They watch who bleeds for them, who panics, who stays quiet." I had to look like I was willing to do something reckless, even suicidal. If I'd staged a fake drug buy, they'd smell it. If I'd just vanished into UC work, they'd never trust me again. But a gas station robbery, messy, loud, on the edge of stupid? That's the kind of thing their guys respect. "Their guys?" I asked. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. Cops. Not all. Not even most. But enough. And not just cops, deputies, private security, bail bondsmen. People with shields and licenses to carry, people who can get guns and evidence through the back doors of courthouses. They run courier routes through this city like veins. Drugs, cash, sometimes people. And the shield keeps them clean because who's going to pull over a marked unit or a guy with a badge on his hip? I felt the floor tilt again. I'd heard rumors, sure, everyone had. Talk in locker rooms, whispers about evidence that walked out the back door, about officers who lived 2 pay grades higher than their salary. But rumors are easy to bury until you see a man you trained rookies with in a ski mask holding a Glock. "You're saying you're inside it," I said slowly. "I'm saying I've been inside it for a year and a half," Hale said. "And tonight was the last test. Either I walk away with that cash, or they cut me out and kill me. You tackling me wasn't part of the plan. But it might have been the only way this doesn't end in a body bag." I looked at Whitaker. "You knew." His eyes were red-rimmed. "I knew enough to sign paperwork I didn't like. I didn't know they'd try to take him out inside our walls." "That's new." I turned to Nix. "And you? How high does this go?" Her mouth pressed thin. "Higher than you're ready to hear. The AG's office didn't build this case because we wanted to. We built it because we had to. We've already lost 3 informants and a deputy who asked the wrong questions. If Hale's cover dies, the case dies. If the case dies, the rot gets stronger." The laptop on the table chimed. A notification window popped up, green against black. Hale stood and clicked it open. The screen filled with a grainy feed from a security camera. It showed a street corner, empty but for a trash can. After 10 seconds, a sedan rolled up, window down. The driver tossed a plastic grocery bag into the can. Then the car sped away. "Dead drop," Hale said. Nix nodded. "That bag will have cash or orders. Either way, it proves the courier network is live." Whitaker's jaw tightened. "And it proves someone inside SPD is on the payroll. That camera is ours. It wasn't supposed to catch this." I stared at the frozen image on the screen. The car was blurry, headlights blowing out the plate. But the profile of the driver, square head, close shave, heavy build, was too familiar. "That's Doyle," I said before I could stop myself. No one spoke for a long moment. The only sound was the low hum of the printer, like it was waiting to spit out a verdict. Nix finally broke it. "Then you understand why we don't trust radios. Why we don't trust doors with the wrong knock." Whitaker rubbed his temples. "God help us." Hale leaned back, eyes fixed on me. "Now you see the line. You're either across it with us, or you're on the side that pulled the trigger in Bay 4. I thought of the texts, the porch photos, the note that said "nice blue door." Whoever sent those knew my habits. They wanted me scared enough to fold, or desperate enough to serve. And now I was standing in a house that didn't exist on paper, staring at a grainy photo that made everything real. "What happens if I walk out of here?" I asked. Nix didn't blink. "Then the next photo on your phone won't be your porch. It'll be your daughter's school. Or your brother's mechanic shop. They escalate until you bend. That's what they do. And if I stay, then you get to fight back," Hale said. "And maybe you buy the city a chance at being clean again." The laptop chimed again. Another video feed popped up, this time from a different angle. Same sedan. Same grocery bag. Same driver. Only now the passenger door opened, and a second figure stepped out, tall, lean, hoodie up. He pulled his hood back just long enough for the camera to catch his face. Michael Torres. My old partner. My blood went colder than it had in that alley. Nix's eyes flicked to me. "You know him?" I couldn't answer. The screen already had. For a second, I wasn't in the room. I was back in a narrow hallway off Wellesley where Torres and I had stacked up on a door, him whispering, "On you, old man," like he always did even though I had 4 years on him. We popped the latch, and a pit bull came like a bullet. He took the bite and kept moving. I shouldered the suspect off a bathtub, and afterward he laughed while a medic stitched his forearm. That was the kind of cop he was. Fast, brave, and inconveniently loyal. We called each other on birthdays and after bad calls. I taught his toddler to throw a baseball in my yard once when the shift ran late and his wife needed a break. On the laptop, he was just pixels under a hoodie, taking a second to let the camera catch his face. "You okay?" Whitaker asked, too soft. "I'm not the one in a hoodie," I said, but it didn't land. Nick studied me instead of the screen. "How close?" "We rode doubles for 3 years," I said. "He's the one who called me when my father's heart went. He's also the one who bought a new F-150 cash last spring and said an uncle died." "An uncle can die and a network can pay a debt in the same week," she said. "What does your gut say?" "That he carried me once and I owe him. And that he just stepped out of a car with Doyle at a drop can where bad money changes hands." Hale rolled his wrist like he was loosening a glove. "Debts become leashes when you don't cut them." "Don't be a poet," I said. "Don't be sentimental," he replied. The printer clicked alive, spitting an evidence request form with half the lines blank. Whitaker signed and slid it toward me. "We'll need your statement on Bay 4 before end of watch. Kept clean. No names you didn't capture on audio. No guesses. Just angles, distances, actions." "You want me to stay in the stream like nothing happened," I said. "I want you to stay visible," Nick said. "Ghosts attract hunters. We need you boring on paper and impossible to turn off route." My phone buzzed again. Unknown. I stared until it stopped. Then it rang immediately from a different number. This one I knew by muscle memory before the screen lit. Torres. Whitaker lifted his eyebrows. Nix flattened her palm. "Answer." I took it by reflex in the gruff voice we used when we were too tired to be polite. "Yeah." "You good?" Torres asked. Street noise in the background. Cars, a bass line, laughter too loud for winter. "Define good." He blew out a breath. "Rumor mill's cooking already. Something went sideways in the garage." "You on that?" "I was near it." "You always were a magnet for weird," he said, gentle. "Listen, watch your feet. A lot of folks are excited to turn this into a thing. We both know how that plays." "Which folks?" I asked. The pause was small and ugly. "Command. Union. A couple of guys who like hearing themselves on the radio. You know the names." "Doyle," I said, testing. He didn't recoil. He didn't laugh. He just stepped past it like a man who doesn't touch hot stoves twice. "Let's catch coffee," he said instead. "You're up, I'm up, and my wife says I'm annoying when I pace. Corner booth at the All Night on Trent. 15. Nick scribbled Trent on a yellow sticky, then underlined it twice. She mouthed yes. "Make it 20, I said. "Need to log a thing." "Cool. And hey." He lowered his voice like a secret could only find its shape when you bent it. "You ever get tired of feeling broke and righteous at the same time? I've been doing some consulting. Legit. Security evaluations. Private transports. It's the kind of thing that makes Christmas feel like Christmas again." Nix's eyes met mine and didn't blink. I kept my voice flat. "I wear one badge." "You wear a uniform," he said softly. "Badges. They're just conversation starters. 20 minutes, brother." He hung up before I could refuse him. He always hung up first, like outrunning an ending. I set the phone down like it had teeth. Nix slid the sticky closer. "You go," she said. "You let him talk. You don't volunteer. And when he asks what I saw in Bay 4, you say exactly what happened to you," she said. "Someone fired. You reacted. A supervisor gave conflicting instructions on an open channel. That's all true and all useless without the piece only he can give." "You think he'll offer it?" I said. "I think he'll fish," she said. "I think he'll tell you there's a way to make the noise stop and the mortgage easier. And then I think he'll ask you for a small favor that feels like nothing." "What favor?" "Maybe it's a plate on a car no one will pull over. Maybe it's a shift trade so a certain person can stand a certain post. They start with things you can explain to yourself in the mirror. I was helping a friend. I was smoothing a scheduling mess. You give once and they own the story they'll tell about you. I won't give, I said. You already did, Hale said, not unkind. You gave him your time. Enough, Whitaker said, tone like a door. We don't eat our own in this room. Officer, you'll be wired. No, Nick said. Whitaker turned. Claire. You wire him and Torres changes the venue, she said. Or he pats him down behind a car and we show our tells. We take notes like grown-ups and we use the city's eyes. She tapped the laptop. Trent Diner has a camera in the sign that no one remembers to clean. Pixel soup on a good night, but it timestamps backs, fronts, and the way people lean. We pair it with the old bus shelter cam across the street and the bank ATM 2 doors down. We thread the movement through our own box. We don't need his pocket to talk when the asphalt will. Whitaker's mouth tightened, then relaxed. Fine. Nix looked at me. Rules, she said. You order water. You leave your phone on the table face up. If he tries to move you outside, you say your stomach is bad. If he persists, you get up and you go to the bathroom. Second stall. The window's painted shut, but the wall has give. I'll be on the other side in 90 seconds. If someone sits down who isn't him, you say you're waiting for meatloaf. If they say the meatloaf's off tonight, you stand and walk out and you don't look left. Meatloaf, I repeated, because sometimes the only thing that keeps you from shaking is a stupid word said like a prayer. Do you carry off-duty? Hale asked. Always. Good. Keep it hidden and keep your hands empty. Whitaker slid a pen across the table. Sign the chain of custody for the Glock you bagged, he said. We'll move it through the lab in a way that won't tip the printer that thinks it owns us. I signed. The ink looked like decision. When I stood, my legs didn't feel like stilts anymore. Officer, Nick said at the door. What color was the door at 3rd? Orange. Good. And your door at home? Not blue, I said. That's your mantra until we're done breathing, she said. The night bit my face on the way back to the cruiser. Streetlights stitched the block into manageable pieces. I drove with the radio low and the heater on my feet until the diner's neon came into view, coffee cup pouring a loop it never finished. The parking lot had 3 cars and a truck aimed at the road like it was ready to run. I parked where the sign camera could see me and where the bus shelter had me framed. It's a habit now, composing your movements so a future you can look back and say, I was here, I did this, I didn't disappear. Inside, the air was all old grease and jukebox regret. A waitress with a bun like a boxer's glove put a menu down without asking, her nails lacquered Christmas red. I chose the corner booth with a view of both doors and the reflection in the window that turned the room into a ghost copy of itself. Torres came 7 minutes late, the way men do when they want to prove they're their own bosses. Hoodie gone. Peacoat instead. He looked the same and not the same, like someone had sanded down impatience and filled the grooves with something that shined. Brother, he said, sliding in. He reached his hand across the table, palm up. The old way. I let him catch mine and squeeze it like a man checking a pulse. You look tired, I said. You look like you were almost a headline, he replied, eyes flicking to the phone on the table, then to the door, then back to me. Bay 4. Loud, I said. Yeah, he said, and smiled without humor. Loud is a kind of message. The waitress came and poured water without asking. He didn't order. He never ordered right away. He waited to see if you'd order first. Tiny power game we used to laugh about, and now was a thing between us like a loaded word. You ever get bored of being the guy who says no to things? He asked, conversational, as if we were in the locker room and not sitting in a camera's view for a reason I didn't want to name. I'm pretty good at no, I said. Try yes, he said. Just once, see how it feels. He leaned back. There's a run tomorrow night. Nothing heavy. A pickup to a drop. No FaceTime. No talk. All you do is not ask questions. You'd be an escort, literal traffic. You drive behind the car and make sure no one gets cute. You don't light anyone up. You don't flash the cherries. You just exist in a way that makes other people behave. And if someone does get cute? I asked. Then you do what you've always done, he said. You keep your city from being stupid. You get thanked in ways the payroll office doesn't know how to spell. Who's in the lead car? He smiled with his mouth, not with his eyes. "A friend, Doyle?" I asked. He didn't flinch. He took a sip of water he hadn't ordered and set the glass down carefully so it didn't leave a ring. "You still wear the same boots?" he asked instead. "I could pick your tread from a lineup." "Answer the question." He ran his tongue over his teeth like he was testing the edge of a knife. "You want names, you pick up a paper. You want a favor that pays your furnace repair, you take a drive tomorrow and keep your head down." A car rolled past outside, headlights washing the diner in 2 beats of hospital white. In the glass, I saw us doubled. 2 men who had once sprinted down hallways together and now sat on either side of a ditch neither of us wanted to name. "I can't keep my head down," I said. "Not after tonight." "Then you can keep it attached," he said, easy as a joke that isn't one. "Because the people who shot at Bay 4 are very interested in whether you're the kind of man who reads a room or the kind who writes reports nobody respects." He reached into his coat. My hands didn't move. He took out a folded napkin and pushed it to my side of the table with one finger. Numbers in neat block print. A time. A cross street. A single word. Follow. He smiled again, softer now, like the old days had climbed into his chest and asked to be remembered. "Say yes once," he said. "Say yes and go back to saying no forever after. You can be clean and paid. Those aren't opposites unless you're bad at planning." The waitress came back, pen lifted. "You boys want food, or you just here for the ambience?" "Meat loaf," I said automatically, and felt the air change like a storm shifting lanes. Torres didn't blink. He watched me the way a batter watches a pitcher's wrist. "Meat loaf's off tonight," the waitress said, bored, because fate likes to use ordinary voices. I stood. My legs were rocks. "Bathroom," I said, and Torres let me go like a man convinced the gate would swing back on its own. The bathroom light flickered like a pulse. The tile was the jaundiced kind that remembers every decade it has seen. I pushed into the second stall and latched it. Somebody had carved a heart into the paint with a key and then crossed it out. The window above the toilet had a skin of white over it, brush strokes visible. I climbed onto the seat, ran my palm along the back wall, and felt the soft place Nix had promised. Drywall patched over cinder, a rectangle that flexed if you put your weight just so. I pressed. For a heartbeat it held. Then it moved a fraction, then more, and the seam gave with a papery tear. Cold air breathed through like a secret. Fingers in black nitrile curled through from the other side and tapped twice, then once. I exhaled and pushed. The panel slid, caught, slid again. Nix's face appeared, eyes calm, hair pulled tight, a smear of city grime on her cheek. She didn't smile. "Come on," she whispered. I swung a leg through, boot scraping concrete. The stall door behind me opened. Hinge squeal. I froze halfway, folded between 2 rooms. "Hey," Torres' voice said from the other side. "We good? You sick or you dodging me?" Nix's hand closed around my wrist. Firm. Grounding. She mouthed, "Don't." I held my breath and stayed where I was. Not there, not here. He knocked the partition with a knuckle. "Brother." My mouth filled with copper. The waitress's muffled voice floated in from the doorway, cheerfully oblivious. "Sir, bathrooms for customers." Torres said something low and easy that made her laugh. His shoes pivoted. Silence stretched thin, then snapped. The outer door swung and thumped. His footsteps faded. Nix tugged me through the square into a narrow service corridor that smelled like fryer oil and pine sol. She palmed the panel back into place with a neat click, rolled a metal rack in front of it, and moved without noise down the hall to a steel door with a push bar. Night air hit us, hard and clean. We were in the alley between the diner and the next building, dumpsters hulking like sleeping animals. "Meat loaf," she said, barely above breath. "Good call. I didn't like leaving him at the table." "You didn't leave him," she said. "You told him who you are. He'll hear it." We cut down the alley. A kitchen hand on a smoke break glanced up and looked away. Nix's sedan waited with its lights dead and its engine already warm. She slid into the passenger seat and pointed me to the driver's. The fabric seats were the anonymous gray of government council and rental companies. "Phone," she said, hand out. I gave her mine. She typed fast and handed it back. A text to Torres was drafted. Stomach bad. My bad. Rain check. Text me a time and I'll meet. Send it, she said. He needs to think you're nervous but not spooked. If you ghost him, he escalates. If you keep the door open, he'll push the schedule and he'll put something in writing we can hang him with. I hit send. The dots appeared almost instantly. He'd had his phone on the table, face down. He always did. His reply came in 2 parts. No worries. You owe me pie. Tomorrow 2,200. Freya and 14th. Just follow. 2 cars. No lights. No questions. Nix read over my shoulder. There it is, she said. He wants you as the 3rd shadow. He trusts you enough to put you behind him, not beside him. Or he trusts that I trust him. Same math tonight, she said. Different signs. I stared at the address. Freya and 14th. An industrial strip with just enough traffic to look like nothing and just enough blind corners for an ambush. My thumbs hovered. What's in the bag? I typed. Then I erased it. Then I typed. 10 p.m. I'll be there. 3 dots. Then a thumbs up emoji, casual as a shove. Nix passed me a small, battered flip phone and a charger in a sandwich bag. Burner, she said. Mine on 1, Whitaker on 2, Hale on 3. Your primary stays on and stays boring. Post a picture of your dog if you have one. I don't. Then post the weather, she said. People trying to decide whether you're controllable love to see proof that you're still the same man who asks the sky permission to be cold. A shadow moved at the mouth of the alley. I tensed. The Tahoe slid by on the street beyond without braking, without glancing. Coincidence performs like that when it wants you to know you're not special. You were gone 90 seconds, she said, answering the fear I hadn't spoken. He came to the door, he knocked, he asked. He didn't push. That tells me he still thinks he owns a future with you. That buys us a window. What about Bay 4? On fire, she said mildly. On paper, I mean. Doyle's blowing whistles about protocols and insubordination to drown out the part where the catwalk turned into a bullet farm. Your report goes in clean, with your words. We'll deal with his later. And Whitaker. Hale. Boxed and breathing, she said. We'll move Hale before dawn. People like Doyle think in daylight. We move in the hinge. I found my balance again with the wheel under my hands. I eased out of the alley and took the long way around the block. At the next red, Nix was already back to the work that looked like staring out a window and was anything but. He asked you for a yes, she said. He wrapped it in old stories and debt. Did it pull? Yes, I said, because lying wouldn't make the next part safer. And no. Good, she said. It needs to pull a little. People smell perfect and run. We passed the bus shelter across from the diner. A bored teenager flicked a lighter while his breath made smoke. The shelter cam's smoked dome watched US glide by, indifferent. You'll take your cruiser tomorrow, she asked. If I'm the 3rd car, I can't hide that. You won't, she said. You'll file a proactive patrol justification for that grid, burglary trend, catalytic converter thefts, pick something real, and you'll mark yourself 10-8 and visible for the quarter hour before the meet. If Doyle tries to pull you elsewhere, you say you're mid-thing. If he insists, you ask for it on the air. He'll back off. He can't risk telling you to vacate the exact place he wants the cover. And when we roll, you roll, she said. You do exactly what he asked. You follow. You don't light the world on fire. You don't save anyone from a ticket that night. You breathe and you watch. You let the city do our recording for us. The bank ATM on Freya's parking lot. The scrapyard gate cam on 15th. The transit garage lens that never sleeps. We've mapped it. We'll be ghosts in the grid pulling your trail while you keep your hands at 10 and 2. And if they take a road with no eyes? They won't, she said. People who believe they own us believe the city smiles at them. They love lights and asphalt that says yes, sir. The one time they tuck into darkness is when they pick up or pass off. That's where we build our own eyes. And if they stop and come back to my window, You text one to the burner and you say, "Pie." I huffed a laugh that wasn't a laugh. "Pie. You owe him pie," she said. "It's consistent with your stomach story. It's also the word that pulls Whitaker in your direction with lights and siren and a complaint about a reckless driver who looks a lot like a Tahoe with a vanity rack." We looped back past the diner from the far side. Through the glass I could see Torres back at the booth alone, phone in his hand, the napkin gone. He wasn't angry. He wasn't smiling. He was measuring something. "He's not a cartoon," I said, surprising myself. "He's not just a paycheck and a shrug. He thinks he's fixing something. Or he tells himself he is. Everyone in this game thinks they're fixing something," she said. "Mortgage. Marriage. Father's shadow. We're not here to correct their narratives. We're here to stop their routes." I parked 2 streets over from where I'd left my cruiser and walked the rest, cutting through back lots so any eyes thought I just grabbed cigarettes. Inside the diner, the waitress clocked me with the same bored glance. "Pie," she said, and the universe flexed its sense of humor. "Another time," I said, and slipped Torres a wave like we were still 2 men who met in places like this for reasons like hunger. He raised his palm an inch and let it fall. Our choreography was rusty and too well practiced. On the sidewalk, my breath plumed. I texted my brother about a carburetor he'd promised me, posted a photo of the ice rim on my rearview mirror with the caption "Spokane being Spokane," and watched the likes tick from the same neighbors who waved when I shoveled. Tomorrow at 2200, I would say yes. I would take the 3rd position behind a friend and a watch commander and follow them into whatever they called necessary. The city would help me watch. Nix would talk me through the spaces between cameras. Hale would breathe somewhere I couldn't see and hope we didn't shrink his window to 0. I got into my cruiser and felt the seat fit my back like it had before tonight had moved the floor an inch lower. I sat there until my pulse belonged to me again. A church bell 2 miles away told half a song and stopped, as if it had remembered something important and decided to wait. When my phone buzzed, it wasn't a porch this time. It was a single line from Torres. "Bring change for tolls. There aren't tolls in Spokane." He was joking, or he was telling me to bring cash for a world that doesn't take receipts. I texted back, "I've got quarters." He sent back a laughing face and nothing else. Nix's burner vibrated in my pocket once and went still. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. I knew what the message would be. Sleep while you can. Tomorrow we stop pretending the badge is just a shape. I didn't sleep. I tried. I lay on the couch with the TV on low, letting the weatherman's voice drone about a cold front rolling down from Canada, about flurries that might not stick. The blanket smelled faintly of detergent and coffee. But my mind stayed lit like a squad car in pursuit. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw 2 things: Torres sliding into the booth, palm up like old times, and the text, "Bring change for tolls." By dawn, I gave up. I shaved, showered, and pulled on the uniform slower than usual. Every crease felt like armor I wasn't sure would stop what was coming. The mirror showed a face a little older than I remembered, eyes a little redder. My reflection looked like a man trying to pass for himself. At 0900, I dropped my body cam footage at the station. The lobby was buzzing, more than usual for a Sunday morning. Officers clustered in pairs, voices pitched low but tense. Everyone was talking Bay 4. Doyle stood in the corner, gesturing too big, too wide, like a politician at a debate. When his eyes cut across the room, they landed on me and stayed a beat too long. He smiled thin, like a knife, then turned back to his audience. "Report," the clerk said, tapping the tray. I slid my envelope across. 3 Adam 7. Evidence tag 442. Glock. Statement inside. She stamped it without looking up. Just another transaction in a building that smelled of ink and sweat. But I felt eyes on my back the whole time. Outside, the sky was that pale Spokane gray that pretends to be light but isn't. I drove until I hit the South Hill, parked in a Safeway lot, and pulled the burner from the glove box. One message waited. "Nix. Check mirrors every hour. Don't call us. Don't lose the thread." I pocketed it and went inside for coffee. The kid behind the counter gave me the wrong change and blushed when I pointed it out. His face was unmarked by the weight of secrets, and for half a second I envied him like oxygen. By afternoon, the city slowed. I answered a noise complaint. A shoplifter at the dollar store wrote a warning for a cracked taillight. The motions of normal patrol. But every plate I ran, every driver I passed, I wondered if they saw me or the role they thought I was playing. At 2100, I pulled into a dark strip off Freya, killed my lights, and sat. 10 minutes early. The lot belonged to a shuttered carpet store, weeds pushing through cracks. My breath fogged in the cabin. The clock's glow said 21:57 when headlights swung in from the south. A sedan. Not marked, but too clean for its age. Torres behind the wheel. He rolled past me without a glance, window down just enough for his hand to flick once, a signal we'd used back in pursuit training. Follow. A second car slid in behind him, darker, bulkier. Tahoe. Vanity rack on top. My gut knew before my eyes confirmed. Doyle. I slotted in third. The convoy moved like it had rehearsed, nose to tail, no signals. South, then west, cutting through empty industrial blocks where chain-link fences leaned and graffiti outnumbered billboards. I kept my spacing exact. Not too close, not too far. My dash cam blinked steady green. We hit 14th and turned east. The road narrowed, warehouses on either side, their windows black squares. My headlights caught frost flashing on asphalt. Torres slowed, the Tahoe mirrored him, and I matched. They were waiting for something. At 22:06, a fourth car emerged from a side street. Beat-up Civic, hood mismatched, just like Hale had predicted. It slipped in front of Torres, completing the line. 4 cars now, moving like a spine down a deserted artery. We drove 10 minutes like that. My hands didn't sweat. They froze, fingers locked on the wheel. Every stop sign we rolled was another nail in something I couldn't name. Then the Civic signaled right and turned into a wide gravel lot behind a chain-link gate hanging open. Torres followed. Doyle's Tahoe next. I hesitated half a second, then eased in last. The lot belonged to an old distribution center, the kind with loading docks rusted and forgotten. The Civic stopped by a dumpster. A man stepped out, hood up, backpack slung. Torres got out too. Their hands met quick, grip and release. Package for escort. Money for silence. I sat in my cruiser, engine idling, dash cam recording. My pulse ticked louder than the heater. Doyle got out of the Tahoe and lit a cigarette, like this was just a break on patrol. Smoke curled up into the frozen air, indifferent. Torres turned his head, eyes cutting toward me across the lot. He gave the smallest nod. The signal was clear, your turn. The backpack changed hands again. Torres slung it over his shoulder, walked back to his car, and opened the trunk. He set it inside, closed it soft. Then he leaned against the bumper, casual, like a man waiting for nothing. The Civic pulled out, tires crunching gravel, disappearing into the night. Doyle took another drag, ground the butt under his boot, and got back in the Tahoe. His taillights glowed red, then dimmed as he killed them. Now it was just me and Torres in the lot. He waved me forward, easy, like a coach calling a player in from the sideline. I put the cruiser in gear. Gravel crunched under my tires as I rolled closer. The backpack sat in his trunk like an open mouth. He tapped the lid with 2 fingers. "Quarters," he said, smiling. "You said you had them." The words echoed the text. "Bring change for tolls." My blood went colder than the night air. I killed the engine, left the cruiser in neutral, and stepped out. Every instinct screamed at me. Not yet. Not here. Torres held out his hand. "This is nothing, brother. Just wait in a bag. You follow, you keep it quiet, you cash your quarters after." I looked down at the backpack. The zipper was open an inch. Enough to see the green edges stacked inside. Bills. Thick. Band after band. "Tell me what's in it," I said. He shrugged. "Paper. Nobody dies tonight. That's all you need to know." The Tahoe's engine coughed alive behind me. Doyle's voice called through the dark. "Let's move it. We don't linger." Torres leaned close. His breath steamed against my cheek. "Say yes once," he whispered. "After that, you can go back to being clean. But tonight, You say yes. I stood in that gravel lot with my oldest friend, a trunk full of cash, and a supervisor watching from the shadows. The cold sank through my boots, but the weight pressing down wasn't weather. Yes or no? Torres asked. His hand was still out. My mouth opened, but the words wouldn't come. Not yet. Not with every eye on me. Somewhere beyond the warehouses, a siren wailed, distant, then died. The night held its breath. The gravel lot felt like a place the city had forgotten, a pocket where rules didn't reach. Torres stood with his arms folded across his chest, the trunk closed now, backpack sealed away inside. Doyle's Tahoe idled a few feet off, red glow from the tail lights painting everything like blood. My breath came white and fast, but I forced my shoulders steady. I'm not taking it, I said again. Not tonight. Not ever. Torres' eyes burned into me. You don't get to draw that line anymore. You stood here. You followed us in. That's already a yes. No, I said. It's proof. A horn split the air. Headlights flared at the far end of the lot. For a half-second, I thought Doyle had backup. But then I saw the shape of the sedan, saw the way it slid to a stop at an angle that cut us off. Whitaker stepped out, his breath fogging, a folder clutched in one hand. Enough, Whitaker barked. This ends. Doyle cursed, hand dipping near his holster. You don't know the game you're in, Lieutenant. I know enough, Whitaker said, holding the folder high. Evidence. Routes. Timestamps. Names. Copies already sent. You pull a gun tonight, the whole city wakes up tomorrow knowing what you've been running. Torres' face drained. He looked at me, then at Doyle, then at Whitaker. His voice cracked when he spoke. Tell me this isn't real. It's real, Whitaker said. You thought no one was watching. But the city's been watching the whole time. For the first time, Doyle faltered. He looked between us, then spat into the gravel. You think you've won? This city doesn't run without us. You cut one vein, another opens. You'll bleed yourselves dry chasing ghosts. He stomped back to the Tahoe, slammed the door, and gunned it. The SUV fishtailed gravel, tail lights shrinking until they vanished into the dark. Silence. The lot felt bigger without him in it. Torres stayed rooted by his trunk, jaw working, hands shaking. He looked broken and younger than I'd ever seen him. Finally, he lifted his eyes to me. Brother, what did I do? I wanted to lie, to tell him he'd just taken a wrong turn, that it could all be undone. But lies had gotten us here. You said yes too many times, I said. And now you get a choice. Keep saying yes, or finally say no. His chest rose once, heavy. He nodded, almost to himself. Then no, he whispered. Nix's sedan rolled in through the fence gap, headlights off until the last second. She stepped out, coat collar up, eyes sharp. She scanned Torres, then me, then the backpack still locked in the trunk. So, she said, voice even. We have him. Whitaker answered. We have enough. He dropped the folder onto the hood of my cruiser with a final thud. Doyle's burned. Torres flips, the rest of the network unravels. Torres sagged, head in his hands. My family. We'll protect them, Nick said. If you cooperate. But this isn't a negotiation, Torres. You've run out of road. I walked to my cruiser, lifted the paper bag with the backpack inside, and set it gently on the hood. It felt heavier than before, like it carried more than cash now. Evidence. Proof. The bodycam's red light blinked steady. It had caught everything. The no, the confrontation, the folder, Doyle fleeing. For once, the tape told the truth. Whitaker looked at me. You understand what you just did, Flores? You stepped over the line. Not their line. Ours. I nodded. My throat was dry. Then let's finish it. We loaded Torres into Nix's sedan, Whitaker riding shotgun with the folder on his lap. I followed them out of the lot in my cruiser, headlights slicing through the frost-hung dark. For the first time in weeks, the pressure in my chest eased. Not because it was over, it wasn't. Doyle was still out there, the rot still deeper than we knew. But because I hadn't said yes. Because the city still had a chance to claw back a little honesty. As we hit the main road, Torres' voice came faint over the radio patched to Nix's car. "Brother." I keyed my mic. "Yeah." "Thank you," he said. Just 2 words, thin and raw, but real. The road stretched ahead, empty, waiting. For the first time in a long time, it felt like somewhere worth going.